Welcome to the regular briefing session of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. We've had our break from the regular business meeting. We accomplished quite a bit. And, I heard that later on this afternoon, we're going to have a lot of rain. Now, I don't know if that's true or whether it's raining outside or just what's going on. Have you heard, Mr. Manager?
I have not, but the sheriff's back there. He probably got wet coming over here or something. I don't know.
By the way, it's good to have you with us, Sheriff Kimbrough. Turn the meeting now over to our Vice Chairman, Don Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, today we're briefing for Thursday's March 3rd, 2022, next regular meeting. We will have a second briefing on these items next Thursday. We do have one discussion item at the end from our county manager. We'll talk about our winter work session on February 24th, which will begin at 8 o'clock. And now we're ready to look at those items and happy to turn the meeting over to our county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. You described it well. I'll go ahead and dive into it. The first item on the agenda is a resolution naming the Forsyth County Central Library Building in honor of memorialize Sylvia SPRINKLE-HAMLIN. So I'll turn it over to Damon Sanders-Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Vice Chairman, and Commissioners. So at the Public Library Board of Trustees, January 19th, 2022 meeting, they approved a recommendation to name the Central Library in honor of Sylvia SPRINKLE-HAMLIN, former library director and patron of the arts here. The results of this vote were transmitted to the County Commissioners in correspondence dated January 21st, 2022. At the Commissioners' January 27th briefing, a discussion item on the County Commissioners' past facility naming practices was provided, and the topic of renaming the Central Library was raised. Subsequent to that meeting, it was staff's understanding that the Commissioners wanted a resolution prepared that would name the Central Library Building in honor of former Library Director Sylvia SPRINKLE-HAMLIN. That is the resolution before you for your consideration, and I'm glad to take your comments and try to answer any questions you might have.
I just have a question. Are you going to have a picture of Sylvia SPRINKLE-HAMLin in that library so people can see for whom the library was named?
So we likely will.
I'd love to see that.
Acts, we will figure out how best to memorialize her there.
Winston-Salem Journal printed a picture of her on the front page, which I thought was very complimentary, but it's always nice to see the person for whom the library was named. That's why I asked the question. Thank you.
All right. Agenda item 2 is a resolution approving and ratifying a 5% pay increase in the county's portion of send-in salaries for the North Carolina Cooperative Extension employees. And so Shannon Hutchins, our Human Resources Director, will review this. I'll just kind of preface it by saying I was actually on the send-in arrangement is a number of years old, and it was developed because there was the complexity of you had cooperative extension workers who actually participated in both the local government retirement system and the state retirement system, and there were so part of it, if you had 30 years in cooperative extension, you get some of the money from the local system and some of the money from the state system, and it was really just kind of untenable. And so probably 20 years ago, we sat down, and I was serving in Granville at the time, and I was on the statewide committee that worked with cooperative extension to do this. And there was, what bubbled up out of that were two options. One was something called send-in, which basically said, we still want to, we view our cooperative extension services as being really connected to the county. So in this, we still want to control, parts of their salary and benefits as it relates to that. But the other way of doing it was you had to choose, send in or lock in. Lock in meant, okay, we just acknowledge our state employees and we will match on the percentage basis whatever the state does. And so this board voted, so when I got here, it actually kind of was coming through about that time, and this board chose the send-in option, kind of recognizing that, that's the arrangement we wanted. And so I just wanted to preface sort of the big picture view there, because as we were working on the pay adjustments, the mid-year pay adjustments that we just did, this came up. So, Shannon.
Hi, Commissioners. Good afternoon. So as Edley was saying, this item is to bring to your attention an omission made to the January 8th adopted resolution authorizing 5% pay adjustments for county employees. The omission impacted North Carolina Cooperative Extension employees. Additionally, I'll briefly explain the history of the department and the process in which the employees are paid. So the North Carolina Cooperative Extension is a collaborative between Forsyth County, NC State University, and NC A&T University. The county entered into an agreement with these two universities on August 16, 2008. The agreement states that the state, through the university system, is the hiring entity for extension employees, and extension employees fall under and abide by policies adopted by the UNC school system. Employees contribute to the North Carolina Teachers and State Employees Retirement System. However, extension employees follow county policies related to office hours, office closings, and for the management and use of county property. The county provides a share of salaries and benefits, such as pay for performance, service awards, tuition reimbursement, and longevity. There are 16 employees in the department. 5 are county employees paid directly by Forsyth County. The remaining employees are state employees who are paid either by a send-in or a lock-in method. 9 employees are paid through the send-in method. Send-in employees are eligible for county performance appraisals and merit increases on the county-paid portion of their salaries. They are not eligible for county benefits. However, there are 3 employees who are grandfathered and do receive health insurance through the county. The send-in positions are impacted by the county's pay plan. 2 employees are considered lock-in. Lock-in employees are not eligible for county performance appraisals, county merit increases, or county benefits. These employees are employed directly through North Carolina A&T University, and the university sets their salaries and provides the county with a percentage to pay amount. Therefore, these positions are not subject to pay adjustments in the county's pay plan. On January 8th, 2022, the board adopted a resolution authorizing pay grade adjustments and subsequent pay increases for county employees. Cooperative extension employees who are county employees or 100% funded by the county benefited from those increases. But because the resolution specifically stated county employees, those who are partially funded through the send-in method did not receive the rate increases. Since the send-in employees are a part of the county's pay plan and impacted by grade adjustments, the HR director and county manager recommend a 5% increase to the county-funded portion of salaries of those employees with an effective date of January 8th, 2022. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions or discuss.
I have one only related question. The related question is for that locked-in employee group you described, whose set of personnel policies do they operate under? State personnel plan, or do they operate under our? Because we got into that issue with the kind of under DSS before we became the Consolidated Health and Human Services. I'm just curious, is this the same kind of overall personnel policies? I understand the salary is a totally different matter. I'm good, but I'm just asking a curiosity question on that.
So the lock-in employees fall under the state policies adopted by the UNC state system, school system.
But they do operate under the guidance of the Cooperative Extension Director. And so for every single employee we have over there, whether they're send-in, lock-in, A&T, or NC State, there's actually an agreement, a memorandum of understanding, and an agreement between the schools and the county around things like who they report to and those kinds of things. But lock-in they're both state employees. The relationship with lock-in basically means all of the salary administration stuff is what it really relates to. Lock-in's handled by the state. Send-in, you still have that division. We handle our portion. the state handles their portion. So if the state gave a 20% pay raise to lock-in employees, our agreement would say we would match that. And so that is just different than, you know, if the state did a 20% increase for send-in employees, we would still do whatever we do.
So the send-in employees, whose personnel policies do they operate under? You said they were state employees.
They're administered by the state, and so it depends on which set of policies. From a salary administration and comp and class perspective, we manage, under that send-in arrangement, we manage part of the comp and class arrangement. As far as rules in the department and, you know, forms required and all that kind of stuff, that's really established by the Cooperative Extension Director. As far as administrative policies about driving a county vehicle, you know.
I'm thinking of personnel policies, appeals. I'm also looking at the vacation days. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, that was one that, we were into that with the DSS employees, and at some point that should be become all county.
They fall under the state for the personnel policies. For the personnel policies, they fall under the state. They do fall under our policies for the use of county property.
And our office hours and everything. It is what it is.
That's
a
a bad
cooperative
system.
Arrangement. So
It needs to be one way or the other, but I forget it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Shannon. Nicely done.
you.
I know it's complicated. Agenda item 3 is approval of the minutes for the meeting we just had. We'll get those out. Thank you, Ashley. Item 4 is an amendment to the FY 2021-22 budget ordinance. It increases revenues and appropriations for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health. I'm going to let Frances Williams take that. Is Ms. Williams on the line?
She is.
Okay. Ms. Williams, you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, very good.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just speak loudly because the volume's a little low.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frances Williams. I'm the Nursing Program Manager at the Forsyth County Department of Public Health. I'm here presenting the Agreement Addenda 620 ARPA, the COVID-19 School Health Team Workforce. This is an agreement received from the Women's and Children's Health and Children and Youth Branch with DHP. This agreement was in the amount of $380,910. The purpose of this agreement is to provide temporary funding for the local health department to support school nurse and other school health serving positions, such as health educators, school mental health professionals, school social workers, to provide services to students. The support can also be through salary supplement, hiring, or contracting, and for people in these roles serving as members of school-based health teams to provide services to students in Forsyth County. This is over a 2-year term for these funds, and at this time, the funds are not to be extended.
All right. Are you finished, Ms. Williams?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. And just for the board's information, the amount here is $380,910. Is that right, Ms. Williams?
That is correct.
Okay, very good. All right. Any questions? All right. Very good. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is an amendment to the 2020 PAYGO Capital Projects Ordinance, and you've got adoption of the BELEWS Lake Capital Projects Ordinance as part of that. Kyle Wolf will come up and review that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So as part of the state budget, the county will receive $3 million for development of BELEWS Lake Park through the State Capital and Infrastructure Fund. And so this agenda item is creating a capital project ordinance for this project with these funds, as well as $2 million that was reserved in the 2020 PAYGO CPO for this project. What's not shown in the agenda item right now, but we will fix it so that it's showing next week, is we also received $500,000 in PARTIF dollars, and so we'll have that in this item for next week as well. So it'll be a total of $5.5 million in this CPO when you adopt it. Any questions?
One question, that's the total, did I hear $5 million total over the years?
That's what we'll have, that's what we'll be establishing the CPO with is $5.5 million. $2 million of it was from the 2020 PAYGO, and that was really for phase one of the Blues Lake, and then $3 million was in the state budget.
When will
this year.
construction start on it?
I would probably defer to Damon on that.
So once we execute the agreement, probably I'd give it 6-7 months of design. So if we were to execute it, do this, and there's a contract going around right now, so probably about 7 months from now, would be my guess.
Yeah. It sounds like with that $5 million, you're going to have a heck of a park up there. Make you want to move up there.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Kyle, what's the projected cost of the developments at the park at this point?
Yeah, I'll probably defer to Damon.
So we haven't spent anything yet. We're actually, the contract is going around right now to approve for bar construction. It will actually do the work, and it's a design build contract. So they have the architect under them. So both of those expenses will be coming together. But that contract is going through contract control right now.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, item 6 is an amendment to 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport Capital Projects Ordinance that appropriates state capital and infrastructure reward funds for the authorized airport projects. You saw a little bit of that, there's kind of a teaser on that last week from Mark. Christopher Ong with Budget Management will talk about the money.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. So the state budget was ratified on November 18th of last year through the passage of Senate Bill 105. So this bill included the base budget appropriations for each year of the 21-23 fiscal biennium and includes appropriations of approximately $126.6 million to 18 airport grants statewide. As you probably recall from Mark Davidson's presentation last week, $23 million has been allocated for Smith Reynolds Airport projects with $11.5 million disbursement due shortly for this year and an $11.5 million disbursement coming up in the next year. So this is a little different than the usual airport grants, wherein as typically they will send in requisitions after they spend through a certain period. This money will get advanced. So I think Mark sort of alluded that we need to get this started pretty quick. So this grant award is under the State Capital and Infrastructure SCIF Fund. And so this item amends the 2018 Smith Reynolds Airport Capital Project Ordinance to accept and appropriate $23 million of the intergovernmental revenue to account for the SCIF awards and increases expenditures in kind by $23 million through the approval of those 5 projects that that Mark presented that you will see on the actual amendment ordinance sheet. And I will entertain any questions with that.
All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to apply for and accept if awarded a 2022 Urgent Repair Program Funding Grant. Kyle Haney.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So this is an annual grant application that we submit to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for funding through their Urgent Repair Program. These funds allow us to provide urgent repairs to individuals' houses in the community who are low or very low income at 50% or 30% of the area median income, such as roof repairs or heat and air replacement. And the total this year would be for $120,000, and we would help at least 10 families. Generally, we try to help about 14 with these funds. Happy to answer any questions.
How do people find out about that?
We have a lot of people who come from word of mouth. They see a contractor working on somebody's house and they ask them what's going on. We are right now actually just printed out some advertisements that we're going to be mailing out to the community, working with Matt Forsyth to identify likely individuals who might need this assistance. And so we've also got it on our website, and you can apply online as well.
Do you have a waiting list?
We do have a waiting list. It's fairly long right now. For this is one of our only funds that we're allowed to use in the city of Winston-Salem as well. And so including those in the city of Winston-Salem, we have probably 70 people on that list.
Just curious, one question, Carl.
Yes, sir.
Do you get any funds from PTRC for this program? They also have a weatherization program over there. They have a list of things similar when it comes to repairs on homes.
Yes, sir. We do not receive funding through them, but we do partner with them. So there are some things that they are able to spend money on, such as a replacement of heating systems. But there are other things that they are not able to. So oftentimes we'll go in and repair a roof or some other things before they come in and do that replacement.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chairman, I do have a question. So with the funding that we provide with the county, are there any criterias that the constituency has to be approved for before they're supported?
Yes, ma'am, if I understand the question correctly. So for individuals to qualify for this, they have to own the home. They also have to meet that income qualification, so we do that verification. And then for these funds, they have to have a qualifying need. So it's either be a veteran, elderly, disabled, a single parent, a large household with 5 or more persons, or have a child under the age of 6 with lead in the house. And then these are provided as forgivable loans. So we will, they'll sign a promissory note, and then over a period of 5 years, it will be forgiven.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Kyle. Agenda item 8 is a resolution awarding acceptance of a Child Health Recognition Award grant from North Carolina GLAXOSMITHKLINE Foundation to the Forsyth County Department of Public Health. Sharita Sutton will Sharita, are you there?
I am here. Good afternoon, everyone.
We're getting a little bit of feedback, but it sounds like it stopped now, so we should be good.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
We can, thanks.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharita Sutton, one of the Assistant Health Directors here at the Forsyth County Department of Public Health. The Be Healthy Children Health and Wellness Program was nominated and awarded $10,000 from the GLAXOSMITHKLINE Child Health Recognition Award for their outstanding efforts to educate Forsyth youth on the importance of organ health, nutrition, and physical activity. The program coordinator collaborates with local organizations, including the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, pre-K through 5th grade, and the Winston-Salem Parks and Recreational staff to offer educational, rich, and interactive programs for children and the community-based settings. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right, thank you, Sharita. All
My
right,
pleasure.
all right, so agenda item 9 through 20 is going to feel a lot like the last 2 weeks have as we go through sort of the last part of the round 2 applications for ARPA funding. And just like we did a couple of weeks ago, I'll turn it over to Kyle Haney to review these.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. And I did want to answer the question from the chairman earlier. So on the meeting, the items that were approved, it was $6,422,269 over 17, and those are the operational items that were approved. So those are the ones that we can move forward to the contract phase.
Thank you. We did that all just today, right?
Yeah.
I think what we could do next week.
Additionally, the capital ones that were approved, there were 4 of those, another $4 million. So yes, sir.
Oh, me, that's good.
I appreciate, Commissioner. So I'm going to run through these. These are items that we have talked about many times over the last several weeks and months. And so these will be the items that are going to be owned for this next agenda cycle. I'll go through these, but if there are any ones in particular you want to pull out and talk more in depth about, we're happy to do that. So the first is the Cure Violence Global for the Violence Interruption Program, $1,500,000. Second, Clemens Food Pantry, which is operating support for their programming. Experiment in Self-Reliance and SG Atkins, third, to expand the Small Business IDA program. Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. as the fourth one. It's a workforce collaboration, $2.5 million. That's working with Forsyth Tech, Goodwill, and other workforce development partners in the community. Memorial Industrial CDC for community garden agricultural instruction, $60,000. Imprints Cares, Ready for Schools program, $3,370,462. Number 7, Creative Center of North Carolina for a collaborative assets project study. That's $300,000. The Shalom Project for a medical clinic program, $50,000. United Health Centers, the COVID response support, $865,000. Neighborhoods Hands, community food delivery, $350,000. And the Arts Council of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County to do subrecipient activities, so fund programming as well as workforce development, technical assistance in the community. That's $2,750,000. Number 12 is one that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. That's the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office Juvenile Intervention and Investigation Team. I did want to mention this because these numbers are a little bit different from the ones you've seen previously. So we worked with the department or with the Sheriff's Office after the last couple meetings, and based off of our understanding of the timeline for American Rescue Plan Act funds, determined that we would have to fund this, we could only fund this through 12/31/2024. And so the option one is funding all 9 positions that were part of the original request. The original request was for 5 years, so it would have gone past the American Rescue Plan Act deadline. This would fund their full request through 12/31/2024. Option 2 that you have before you, the $1,497,630, that was a scaled down request that they had presented as well. It had 6 staff members instead of the 9 staff members that were part of the original application. So that agenda item has a option 1 and option 2 for the consideration of the board.
Yeah, so, Vice Chairman, if I may. Yeah, I did have some concerns, and thank you for the clarification regarding that, because those numbers weren't not the same. But I did have a question, because I know that this was one of the items that we looked at during our previous budget season last year, and it was on there, but I don't remember the exact number. Do you?
I do not.
I think the sheriff's out in the hall.
He's right here now.
There he is.
So are you referring to?
Yeah,
I think you're not referring to the JIT team.
I don't know what they called, Sheriff Kimber, I don't know what you called it last year, but it was in our budget season, and then we decided to move it to the ARPA funding process.
There was an ASL for a juvenile intervention unit that was $504,552, which was 4 deputy detective positions and 1 corporal position. So it was 5 positions. I'm not sure if that's
Did we fund that?
No,
We did not.
No.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. And what was that number again?
504,552.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
I thought there was, when this first started, I thought the request was for $3 million and something.
It was too.
Was it not, Sheriff? Can we ask him, the sheriff?
And I will, I'll let the sheriff speak, but I will say they had originally requested for a 5-year period. But due to the ARPA restrictions, we would not be able to actually provide those for 5 years. So Randy and the Sheriff's Department provided us the updated numbers for the period we would be able to provide funds. And
Okay.
that's the change.
Okay, so okay. Thank you.
And while you're here, so I wanted to ask a question, because Rocky did come in last week with the budget sheet and the budget details, and now they're asking for another additional, 3 more detectives or whatever for the difference of the amount. And I mean, I don't have a problem with the option number 1, going through 2024, knowing again that that's not something that may be sustainable, and it also gives us an opportunity to kind of have some oversight. But I was thinking through this. So in my thoughts, we had a lot of call to action from organizations outside of, and I've received several calls since our last meeting last week. And just thinking about what we could do with the difference of the funding to address the generational trauma, socioeconomical inequities, mental illness, to harvest the hope. We heard that word today. So I think I want to support the admin staff to kind of help with responding to the reporting for the federal government. But I just need to kind of have some more talk through with regards to these additional deputies. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. And again, I appreciate you allowing us to have this moment. I think the confusion is the original request was 9. Option 2 came about at the request of one of the commissioners with one of my deputies. The original request was 9. The number that you're referring to from last year, that was in CID. The juvenile intervention team, the original number was 9.
9 million?
No. 9 positions. 9 positions. And option 2 was at the request of one of the commissioners. And I think the problem comes that the original request was 9, and at the request of one of the commissioners, he reduced it without having conversation with me, but the original request was 9.
So with the original request, what I'm trying to allude to is that I'm trying to figure out what that number was from last budget season. Not in the ARPA funding, but we were trying to look at this through our regular budget season.
If I recall it correctly, we were talking about in the CID unit. This has nothing to do with the juvenile intervention unit. We was requesting juvenile investigators in CID.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Okay, that's clarifying. Thank you. So can you speak to the additional need for the 3 detectives versus what Rocky brought last week?
Again, the 9 positions represent what it would need to be successful at this based on the statistical data that we have captured that is happening, what was happening in our community. Option 2 was at the request of a commissioner. Option 2 was never what we requested. We requested 9 from the beginning based on what we knew that it would take to do this successfully. The admin person came in because we know that in order to capture this data and capture it correctly, we're gonna have to have an admin person. The 2 supervisors is that if we put these men and women on the streets working, there has to be someone to supervise them. Winston can't supervise our people because Winston policies are totally different from ours. So you wouldn't send 6 Forsyth County deputies somewhere without supervision, relying on Winston to supervise them when they operate under 2 different policies. So that's where the 2 supervisors came in at, and the 1 admin person.
Sheriff, I'd like to ask you to talk a little bit more about your implication is that you have some particular data that would support X number of deputies. And I'd like to know what that data is.
Well,
you just said it existed.
I'll be glad to
Why don't
share
you tell me what that data is?
The data is based on the violence that is happening in the city. The data
Well,
is based
tell
on...
me just provide by next week the numbers that generated why that is.
I'll be glad to do that. Be glad to do that.
And then we can have a little more discussion.
I'll look forward to that.
I did have a conversation with Chief Thompson about this supervision issue. And we talked about the very issue you just brought up, which are
Yeah, she
obviously
shared that with me yesterday.
two different agencies with different policies. However, we did talk about the issue, because I did speak with, and I'm the commissioner, as you know, that spoke with Rocky about this issue.
Of course I know.
You know that. And in that discussion, you know, the issue really comes up with your 2 supervisors, as I understand it, is that you need to have somebody available at any time for basically your officers, your deputies that are working in this project, the JIT team, to be able to have, you know, to ask questions and get guidance. I mean, they need to have a go-to person. And clearly, if you have 1 supervisor, they can be on vacation, they could be on this, they could be in training, they could be ill. And part of the issue, I did talk about and apparently you all do work a lot with at least 2 of the officers, one a sergeant, I think, and an officer in the Winston-Salem PD gang unit. And we did get a letter from Chief Thompson expressing her support for the program generally and overall. And she said that, yeah, that work that you do, the current team that you have in place is having conversations with the gang unit at the Winston-Salem PD, just as you have conversations with, I believe it's a half of a person in Kernersville PD. And so the issue we talked about is the real word is not supervision, but guidance. Questions on guidance could be to handle those kind of things at any time would be available through the Winston-Salem PD. And she said, we'd be happy to do that. We're not supervising, we're not doing that, but guidance to deal with those kind of issues. So I guess I probably just have a little heartburn over 2 what you call supervisory positions. However, on the other part of it, the clerical assistant, we did have a conversation, Chantel Robinson and I did, with the person we found on the evaluator. In fact, you were there. You heard you were on the call this week. And in fact, it really did, appears to me from listening to him, in order to do a quality evaluation of the JIT program, the JIT team, it looks to me like it's probably going to be some record keeping is going to be pretty important. So I actually, from listening to that on Monday, I really feel like the clerical person is an important addition. I do. I think you're going to need more data, and probably each of your deputies, I think, are going to end up, as I sort of picture all this, may need certainly some more time to do. There's some paperwork involved there. So with all that, I probably feel comfortable. I feel comfortable supporting an additional deputy and the clerical person, but I'm having heartburn over the supervision piece, particularly when we're looking at a cooperative work. Part of, I think, the discussion among the commissioners, and this was not just me, was the issue of having, so that we're not in 3 different silos in Kernersville and Winston-Salem and the county overworking with, gang, violence. Gang issues and so forth. There needs to be communication. So, I feel like that, what I heard earlier from your chief deputy was that there is a almost daily conversation with a gang unit in Winston-Salem PD. And it seems to me the guidance and that kind of work could probably at least suffice on the issue, particularly when that gang unit, your JIT team does not operate in isolation. It's a part of your department. And that if there's somebody that really needed to be there, also other people who could be called. And I'd like to ask you to at least rethink that, as well as providing that information by next week would be very helpful.
Yes, sir. If you allow me a second, I'd like to unpackage that, and I have an ask of you as well. I think if you look at the current drug task force team, Winston has a supervisor, the sheriff's office has a supervisor. The word you're using is guidance. You can't guide someone that operates under different policies and procedures. It would be very difficult for you to do that. I think the mix-up is, Dr. Martin, is that when we have these conversations, if you include me in them with the chief deputy, I think the waters wouldn't get muddy. And I think that the supervisors are needed because you're gonna have, as you refer to, guidance on the street. You don't want to put a unit out there that's operating with 2 different policies than Winston-Salem has and the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office has. I was privileged to the conversation that you and her had, and she explained that Winston policies are totally different than the Forsyth County Sheriff's. They may do the same work, but they operate under different policies and procedures. So for me to put men and women on the street and to rely on Winston to guide them, that wouldn't be good leadership, because they cannot guide which they don't have the same policies.
Sheriff Kimmerly, this is my last comment on this. My role as a county commissioner is to be good steward over the funding. So good steward over the funding, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So with that being said, you are the High Lord Sheriff of this county. And in the future, you should never not know when someone is presenting on your behalf in terms of your department, okay? And for you not to know this, and then I'm not sure what's going on in terms of the amount, that's unfair to me. But I appreciate you being here today to share, the specifics in terms of why the numbers have changed.
I think it's unfair, Madam Commissioner, for you to say, I knew that he was presenting.
No, I said I did it for you not to know.
No, I knew that he was presenting. What he was presenting was unknown to me. I'm not privileged to the luncheons that they have. If you want to know the truth, how I feel, I think it's very disrespectful to request a luncheon with one of my men without inviting me.
Sure, so are you telling me that Rocky came, you knew he was presenting, but you didn't know what the material was that he was presenting?
The understanding that I had, that he was coming to speak with you about the JIT team, not about the breakup or reducing the numbers or request for another option. No, I did not know that. I knew he was coming to speak about the JIT team. I knew that.
So in the future, I think this is some learning that both of us
I
have
appreciate
done.
that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Sheriff, let me ask you another question. Sure. Are you suggesting that no commissioner here could have lunch with your chief deputy?
No, that's not what I'm saying, Dr. Martin. Here's what I'm saying, if I can speak freely. I would love to go to lunch with you. If you request a meeting to talk about something that I'm doing, I would love to be a part of that conversation. You can go to lunch with anybody you want to, but if you specifically request to go to lunch with a chief deputy of mine and discuss something that I'm doing, I would like to be a part of the conversation because I am the sheriff, and it would be respectful. That's all I'm asking. I'm just asking for common courtesy and to be treated like the sheriff.
I didn't know you wanted to spend that much time with me,
I would
Sheriff,
love
but
to
if
spend some
if
time
you
with
would,
you.
if you would, that'd be,
I promise you I would love to
I'll
spend
make sure
some
we're
time
gonna
with you.
arrange that.
Please do. I would love that.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Sheriff, could I ask one question, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
Will the 2.189324 give you the number of positions you need to carry this program out?
It would.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate your time.
I'm going to make two quick apologies here. So number 10, neighborhood hands, that should be 200,000, not 350,000. I apologize for that. And then lastly, number 13, you do not have an agenda item in front of you for that. Yes, ma'am?
You're running through it. I'm sorry, just slow down just a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So I know that a recommendation was made by one of the commissioners to reduce the amount for neighborhood hands, but was that the consensus out of committee, or is that offered off of one commissioner's response?
I am not, I don't know the answer to that. I know that from my understanding, the recommendation was 200,000
The recommendation from committee or
from staff.
from?
I'll correct. The original recommendation was the $350,000. We thought what we heard was to reduce it. So we were going to reduce it to 200,000, but we're certainly happy to do either one. We could bring two options. It's really at the pleasure of the board.
Can you show me where we are right this moment? Either numbers.
sir.
I'm not, and I'm a little bit with Commissioner McDaniel. I need you to talk a little slower for me.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm getting kind of lost where we are.
Sure.
Where are we?
So we had gone through 12 of these, but I was going back to number 10, which was neighborhood's hands, to discuss the 200,000 versus 350,000.
Right. So how will we resolve getting back to the original that came out of the committee?
If it pleases the board, we could do a option, well, I won't speak, but option 1 and option 2 on that. Or one option for 350,000 and one option for 200,000.
That's fair enough. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Is Green Street United Methodist Church the applicant for Shalom?
No, sir. It was Shalom who submitted the application.
Are they, is that a separate outfit? Because that's what Green Street uses
Yeah, they
as their
operate,
handle.
yeah, they operate out of that facility some, and so I don't think,
I just see, I've always connected ever since Shalom began. It comes right out of Green Street United Methodist Church.
and that's true. I think it's changed some because Shalom has gone and done some stuff down on Peters Creek Parkway, and so, but a lot of their programming does operate out of there, and it is a nonprofit arm. that
They're
works
separate
closely with the
separate from
church.
Green Street,
Can I
right?
make a comment?
Yeah.
The medical clinic is actually downtown on West 4th Street, right across from the brewery. And they've been there for some time now. It's a free clinic.
Good, okay.
And then we had gone through 12. I will say if there are any items that a commissioner wants to speak in more in depth with, I'm happy to do that. I was going to mention that number 13, there is not an agenda item currently. That was an oversight. We had prepared the agenda item but had not hit submit on that. So that will be added and be ready for you next week.
Can you talk a little bit about what it is? Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that is for Monarch, the child-focused assertive community treatment team. That is startup cost for them in the amount of $250,000.
Hey, thanks for the $6.4 million figure.
Yes, sir.
I do have a question because I mentioned earlier that Chantel and I spoke with Dr. Butts, Jay Butts from, not Jay Butts, but Dr. Butts from John Jay College up in New York, sort of evaluation work. And I was pretty impressed with his comments about the cure violence evaluation and how you kind of make sure you're really finding out if it works. And Chantel had sent him a synopsis of the JIT team, for example, and we did invite the sheriff to be on that call to listen about that. And he did talk about that. I think the evaluation is important, but clearly he's not free. And I'm kind of a budget standpoint to deal with that outside evaluation. We're really not addressing that at this point anywhere, and I just kind of want to make sure we do somehow. Is there a suggestion of how to handle that?
So, and one of the discussion items I know we had mentioned last week was what level of evaluation we want to do for holistically, or as well as maybe just some of these. Certainly, the guidance does allow us to have research, have evaluations done to effectively administer these funds, and so I think it is an eligible, expense. I'm not sure if that's a discussion that could be part of the winter work session or.
Kyle, I can interject. So, we're asking for a not to exceed amount of $1.5 million. We do anticipate that the city will pay for half. So the last that I heard was there was support at the Public Safety Committee. The city did set aside funds for a crime prevention plan as part of their ARPA of like $1.3 million total. And so they are trying to reallocate like how they spend those funds, and have requested from their council to spend $750,000 on cure violence. And I do anticipate that happening and bringing back in front of, before you, and she'll be bringing to the city council an interlocal agreement that really solidifies our partnership. I say that to say I feel like there's going to be enough funds in this not to exceed amount to cover the evaluation, and then at some point we can come back to you once we get everything solidified with the city, and I believe we'll have like money remaining for your ARPA balance, if that helps.
That helps, except it doesn't help with the JIT team evaluation, which is not a part of the cure violence and not a part of that. And I think that, I think we're talking to Dr. Butts about doing both, and either then we need to put some money in the JIT team proposal to some kind of placeholder or not some kind of thing to at least include a little extra to cover the evaluation.
So I think it's all going to be about kind of reallocating dollars. Again, within the 1.5, I feel like there'll be enough probably for both. And then once we get everything firm, we can probably really finalize where the pots of money go. Does that make sense? So I think with these actions, we'll have enough funds covered, but we'll probably need to come back to really make sure that we're clear. Because with cure violence, for an example, even though you're setting aside a not to exceed amount of 1.5, at some point we'll have an RFP process, identify a nonprofit, we'll have final amounts on their evaluation, I'll have final amounts, I'll be probably already doing a contract with Dr. Butts. So I think there'll be a lot of moving parts with that anyways.
Okay, thanks.
If I may, to recollect my memory, I thought that we were going back to the city, public safety. They were supposed to respond back to the MOU with the sheriff's department.
Yeah, they did, and that was that letter I gave you from Chief Thompson that basically said, I endorse it, not willing to do a memorandum of agreement. That letter was the extent of their commitment to articulate in writing their efforts to work together. And now I think Commissioner Martin's heard some from Rocky, and is that once the team, and what Rocky said I think last Thursday was that they will, once the team they stand the team up, they'll build that. And at that point, it may need your approval as a type of mutual, they operate under kind of mutual aid anyway. We'll see if it requires, it's a true interlocal agreement.
Sure.
But
Thank you.
best we could do to answer your question was that letter.
Okay, thank you.
So those are the items that'll be for the board next week and on the 3rd for a vote. Happy to answer any other questions the board might have.
And I'll probably offer up two things real quickly. One is something that we've talked about. You've heard from some of these groups kind of in small group sessions. If at any point you want a presentation from somebody in this session or in a special session or whatever, we can certainly make that available. That might be something to think about as we go into phase 2. particularly for, that if you wanted to kind of formalize everybody here the same thing, we could give, structure that and give them, a certain amount of time to come in and sort of pitch what their project is. So be thinking about that. So there's that. And then, our other effort here is really to wrap up on March 3rd, round one, so that we're not going back to round one. Everything we talk about moving forward will be in round two. So hopefully that's satisfactory with the board. I think a clean break so that the community knows where we are and what we're doing kind of will be helpful. So.
Mr. Chairman, just 30 seconds on number 10 here. I was the one who made the recommendation of 200,000 versus the 350, and I got a call from the director thanking me for that position. So I want to be very clear about that. I think our trend in terms of principles has been not to give the full amount requested for first-time petitioners, and I thought that would be very appropriate to give them 200,000 versus 350, and I still stand by that. Thank you very much.
That's good conversation, because I spoke to the executive director as well, and he appreciated the 350,000. So Dudley, what I would say to you is that I would like the opportunity to extend an invitation to neighborhood hands to come in and do a presentation before us, because we do have those two options, and we can hear from him in terms of what his needs are for the community. Thank you.
You want to do that, take time in open session next Thursday? You want to try to do it in small groups beforehand? Or do you?
I would like to do it in open session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that satisfactory with the rest of the board? Okay, I see heads nod. Okay, we will arrange that. So, very good. Anything else, Kyle? Thank you. And I got to say, because there were a lot of staff, a lot of accolades to staff, but Aisha Carter's back there, and Aisha hit the ground running, and she really has been the feet, hands, and everything else of all of you guys, of this effort. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aisha.
All right, very good. We'll jump in on item 21. It's under contracts. It's a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to the contract with Walter Robbs, Callahan, and Pierce Architects for Smith Reynolds Airport. James Anderson was going to present that, but James and Mark Davidson both could not be here today, so I'm just going to push the introduction off to next Thursday, if that's okay on that one. Item 22 is a resolution awarding a contract for the document scan and upload services. DSS has had an active project with that. Elizabeth White is here. I saw her somewhere. Come on up, Liz. And she will review that.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's down to my height. We sent out an RFP on October 12th, 2021. It was advertised, and the deadline for submissions were October 29th, 2021. We posted on the Winston-Salem Forsyth County purchasing site, as well as sending it out to 4 known vendors. We received 7 submissions for this RFP for the scanning and uploading into our Laserfish system. Of those 7 proposals, only 3 of them met all the minimum requirements. Collaborated with MIS, and we set the requirements that were needed to do the streamlined uploading of these images. The 3 vendors, StarPoint, Global Solutions, and AIS, Advanced Imaging Solutions, we then looked at if they had the preferred delivery system, which is a Laserfish briefcase. 2 of the vendors did have that preferred delivery system, and that was Global and StarPoint. And then we looked at cost, and StarPoint had the lowest cost per image. We're looking at over this project about 14 to 15 million images that need to be scanned into the system. And StarPoint also included in their price point the cost of destruction once these are scanned into Laserfish. They will hold them for 6 months, which is the state requirement, and then they will destroy them, and it's all included in the cost. So this is for 2 contract years starting this year. The first contract would start March or April, and it would go through till June of 2023 because of the late start with the contract. And then it would be the ability to do a second contract through fiscal year 24. We're estimating $375,000 a year with a total cost of about $750,000. Any questions?
I got to say, Liz White's legacy in this organization. She's got a lot of legacies, but one of them is going to be an empty warehouse where they used to be filled up with paper.
And an
so-
empty building.
That's right.
These are coming out of our building. We've got 2 very, very large file rooms, so we're getting rid of all the paper.
If you saw the mountain of paper she's talking about, you would be impressed. So thank you, Liz. She's done a lot of great things.
Are we paying her enough money?
You always ask that. Of course we are. So-
And I do appreciate the raise last month.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank y'all.
Item 23 is a resolution awarding and authorizing the execution of a contract for repair of ambulance units 29 and 35 that were both badly damaged, and Scott Angel will review.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. This resolution does award and authorize execution of a contract for the repair of 2 ambulances, Unit 29 and Unit 35. Unit 29 received damages when it was hit by a large piece of metal that fell from another vehicle into its path of travel while on Highway 66. The box and the chassis were both damaged. The chassis is not repairable and will be taken out of service. However, the box can be repaired and mounted onto a new chassis. Unit 35 was damaged when it was hit by an impaired driver on Reynolds Road. The box and the chassis both received damage. Assessment of the chassis determined that it is repairable. The box had considerable damage but can also be repaired. So the fleet manager worked along with emergency services staff to develop specifications for repairing the 2 ambulances. City County Purchasing advertised the specifications for bids and received 2 bids on the 10th of this month, one from Atlantic Emergency Solutions and the other from Northwestern Emergency Vehicles. Atlantic's total bid for the repair of the 2 units is $343,776, and Northwestern's total bid for the repair of both units is $226,878.86. So the resolution awards the contract to Northwestern Emergency Vehicles in the amount of $246,878.86, which is Northwestern's total bid plus $20,000 in recommended contingency funding to cover any unforeseen repair issues that may be discovered during the repair process. And of course, any unforeseen issues discovered will require the county's approval prior to being repaired. So along with me, there's the fleet managers here as well as representative from the emergency services if you have any questions.
And we are pursuing insurance on that. So, but we are moving in advance of that settlement to get them repaired. And so we will navigate our way through that, but these units can't sit. They need to be repaired, so.
Just out of curiosity, was the vehicle, the EMS vehicle moving at a fast speed when the box fell off or whatever it was and it fell
When
right
it
in
hit the
front of
piece
them?
of metal on Highway 66.
Yeah.
That's not the one you're questioning.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jennifer or Steve, you know.
I'm just curious primarily because if you got one immovable object and another immovable object moving quickly, that probably caused most of the damage, didn't it?
Well, I think they were transporting a patient, from my
Oh, my
understanding.
gosh, yeah.
They wasn't going that fast. I don't know exactly how fast they were going. We
Mm-hmm.
had video from Kernersville Fire Department.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for the driver acting quick, it would have rolled over multiple times. But I
So
don't think they
they're
were going really
alive.
fast.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Good
without looking back up on Geotab to see if it was the actual speed they were running.
That's an interesting story.
I think they actually slowed down enough because they seen the piece fall off. And then, but they couldn't act. They acted accordingly like they should. They tried to move out of the way, but it's almost like it just ran.
You know, I
into-
always see all these vehicles moving along. I don't think about the patient lying on a stretcher in the back. It's a whole different story for him too, or her. You know, you guys do a heck of a job.
It can be scary sometimes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
They give you an estimate of how long the repairs will take.
I don't recall an exact estimate. I can find out for you. I don't think they actually submitted a tentative date. Most times it's like 90 to 120 days, but I guess it depends on how fast it is to get the box off and we get it back to get the chassis fixed.
I think that should be as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to let them sit around, I promise you. They're going to get right on them.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, sir.
Jennifer, do you have anything to add? Do you have anything to add? Yeah.
I think
Okay, gotcha. All right, very good. Any other questions on that? All right, thank you, guys. Agenda item 24 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Twin City Data Incorporated for the integration of the county's master address repository to county enterprise systems along with the associated system. This is a Map Forsyth project. Dave Torn with Map Forsyth will review this.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For this project, we issued an RFQ. We did this because this project is highly technical. It's basically a complicated IT project with a smattering of some GIS in there. Part of it is going to ensure the data integrity of our addresses, as well as integrating our address repository into different applications and databases. We worked with City County Purchasing Department to get this RFQ issued. It was put out on January 12th, 2021, about a year ago, and we accepted responses until February 15th, 2021. We ended up getting 2 submissions, one from Twin City Data and one from a company called Spatial Focus. There was a third company that showed some interest but ultimately did not reply. Let's see. We formed an RFQ review committee to help us look over the submissions and to determine if either one of the respondents had the qualifications and skills that were required for the project. The review committee, we pulled together from a couple different departments, some folks from County MIS, a couple people from City IT, and some staff from Map Forsyth as well. At that point, we gave both companies the opportunity to come in and do live demonstrations and answer any questions, and they both took advantage of that. And so once that was done, we pulled the committee back together and reviewed both responses based on a bunch of different criteria, some of which were the ability to be customizable, to fit our environment, a tiered approach to integration, knowledge transfer, the ability to integrate with both GIS and non-GIS systems, 10 years experience, as well as a whole host of other things. And after the review process was done, everybody on the committee agreed that the consensus was that Twin City Data was the only vendor that met all the qualifications for the project. So at this point, we would recommend entering into a contract with Twin City Data for the Master Address Repository Integration Project. The cost of this agreement would be $250,000, which would be spread out over 4 years. And if approved, Map Forsyth will work with Twin City Data to set up an integration schedule for county systems. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate
Thanks.
that. Agenda item 25 is a resolution declining the first opportunity to purchase 21.79 acres of property owned by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education. Kyle's going to review this, but Darrell Walker's in the audience. He can talk a little bit about it, and Gordon may want to talk just about the statutory piece around what our
Yeah,
involvement is.
so Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System owns 21.79 acres of property, Weather End Drive, and the Board of Education has declared the land unsuitable and unnecessary for public school purposes, and would like to sell the property pursuant to the North Carolina General Statutes. And the statutes require the Board of Education to provide the county the right of first opportunity to purchase the property. And so that's what they're essentially offering the property over. And staff is actually recommending that we decline the opportunity to purchase the property, allow the school system to move forward with the sale of the property. The intention of the school system is to use the proceeds from the sale of the property towards the merged and co-located maintenance operations facility that we've been working on for the past little bit. And I'm not sure if Darrell has anything else.
What was it going to be used for when they purchased it?
Darrell?
Some of you around good afternoon. Some of you around may recall we used some bond savings from the 2006 bond, purchased a couple different pieces of land for future schools. And this was a parcel of land that was being developed with housing when the market kind of crashed in that 2010-11 era. You may recall And so we just really haven't had the growth that we may have thought with the next bond. We don't see a need to probably build a school in that area. I've had several requests from developers about building that out, and I think it's the right thing to do for the community to develop that parcel of land for housing and future use.
Okay.
Where's the location?
Bethania Station and Rural Hall Road, you go up 52 north, get off at Bethania Rural Hall, take a right on Shore Road, and it's right there. There was a development that was started there by
Yeah, I know
Ned
what you're
Pierce.
talking about, but I don't know this.
Yeah.
Is that something that they bought some time ago? Right.
Yes, sir, probably 2010, 9, 11, somewhere along in there, we purchased it. Because right as we bought it as the market was kind of
Was it,
kinda
is it
tanking.
just right on the opposite side of the road where that, that new development is? Well, it's been going on for a while. But
Yeah, it's right in that same area, right-hand side there.
Yeah, it's actually, it's a little further down Shore Road. The development you're talking about, that's kind of right on 52. This is
location, but
Yes, sir.
I
kind
didn't.
of behind it. Well, Darrell, talk a little bit about, in terms of the anticipate, because you're getting prices and so forth, what kind of, in terms of money exceeding what you paid, what the school district paid for, what kind of dollars you're talking about?
Yes, sir. So in the original purchase was around $500,000. Right now, the proposals that have come into me is just right around $700,000 to a little north of that. And as Kyle mentioned, our plans are to put that money back in, working with Kirby and Chelsea and putting that money back into the maintenance facility as we go forward.
And that matches up with the budget that Kirby showed you on the maintenance facility. Actually, it's $200,000 more, so that should
Yeah, he
ensure
didn't know
project.
that, Dudley. I just told him that this week, so it's kind of new to everybody that at least the numbers are coming in a little higher than we anticipated.
It's good.
That's the same obligation that we have in property, let's say, open.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're kind of close to finishing in that window at this point.
Daryl, while you're here, I have an off-the-cuff question. Any updates on Ashley Elementary School?
So we have a planning meeting with the architect coming up next week to start talking about the school itself, as well as I will probably be setting up a meeting with Dudley soon to talk about some wraparound services that have come up through the community around these conversations around that site. We have secured, we've got one more parcel of land to purchase there that had like 9 acres to it, and it's just tracking people down and things of that nature. So we're about there. So you'll see it pick up a little steam now as we move forward. We have an architect, Wesley Curtis. Walter Robbs is going to be the architect for that project.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you, Daryl. Yep. All right, very good. We are closing in on it. Item 26.
Dudley, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm gonna, I didn't see, there was one item that was on, I thought we had on the agenda, but I don't see it. And I just wanted to, there's some increase, increased lottery revenues. I don't see it on our agenda. I didn't know if I could talk about it, or, because it will be a time issue.
There is a time
It needs to
issue.
be voted on before
Go ahead.
the next meeting. I mean, it has to be voted on before March 15th.
Go ahead and talk on it.
And so we'll bring you more information on it, but there's $395 million due to increased lottery revenues available for needs-based public school capital fund grants. And the school system would like to submit an application for these funds using bond funds as part of from the 2016 bond referendum as a county match. It's really to assist with projects that are being impacted by inflation. And Daryl will probably talk about them, but there's a list of 5 schools that we got today, and we'll have it more fleshed out for you, I guess, next Thursday. But it really is,
It's my understanding is it's competitive, so if we don't apply, we won't get.
That's right.
And so
Exactly
there's a
right.
time frame on the competitive piece.
that's right.
All right.
What are the 5 schools, Carl?
It was, what I saw today, it was Louisville Elementary, Cook Elementary, East Forsyth High School, Ward Elementary, and Griffith Elementary.
Okay.
And And this is money the state has set aside to help offset inflation, huge inflation issues, and
I
It's,
think lottery proceeds were in excess. It's them dealing with some excess lottery proceeds, I think, is what.
right, and it went to the needs-based public school capital fund, and so every county is, allowed to apply for those funds. Some counties have a matching requirement, some don't. We do. I think it was 35%.
is it a dollar for dollar match, 1 for 2 to 1 for, what's the match?
Let's see. It is, I'm not positive, but I'll get that for you. I think it was, I was thinking it was dollar for dollar, but I'll get you that information for next week.
But previous bond issues, the 2016 bond issue is an eligible match.
Yes.
So there's no additional match required. The bond issue itself is a match, so that's not an issue. And how much did you say it was for? 3 point?
Well, there is $395 million.
$395 million available in the pool.
The total amount that they're looking for is around $35 million.
We're going to request $35 million.
Yes.
Wow.
That's a good deal.
That will be good.
That'd be a nice lick.
Manna from heaven, that's right. So,
Absolutely.
all right, very good. Like I said, we're closing in. Item 26 is an ordinance revising Chapter 6 Forsyth County Code entitled Animals, and I think it came up out of recommendations from the Animal Control Advisory Committee. So I'll turn it over to Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, Mr. Vice Chairman and Commissioners. So this is a summary of some Animal Services Advisory Board recommendations. On May 27th, the chair of the Animal Services Advisory Board provided correspondence relaying the board's recommendation to amend the county code of ordinances in 2 areas. So one is for people appealing dangerous dog or potentially dangerous dog declarations. There could be interim measures that can be provided on the pet owner. So that would be County Code Section 657B. And then the second request was to repeal pet licensing provisions for all animals other than for dangerous dogs. And that's County Code Section 610 and 610-2. On July 29th, I presented their advisory board's recommendations at that time. And then the subject was going to be a potential workshop topic. However, as we kind of firmed up the details of it, it seemed more appropriate to be presented as an agenda item for the board's consideration. So that's why I'm here today. And so for those 2 requests, generally, county management supports both of those. Before I get to the end, that's kind of the punchline. So for dangerous dog and potentially dangerous dog interim measures, I won't read the code to you, but the highlighted part is that there is a provision for a stay of enforcement of any order while the dog is waiting for its appeal, for a hearing. And then also, the county has the option to impound an animal if it's considered dangerous dog or potentially dangerous dog declaration is on it. So there's really only 2 states it can be in right now. It's free without conditions or impounded. There have been instances where a dog that's been waiting for a hearing has committed another offense while awaiting that hearing. So the Animal Services Advisory Board recommendation would allow interim measures pending appeal, that an animal will have to be muzzled when outside, leashed when outside, or under the control of a person at least 16 years of age when outside while pending a dangerous dog declaration or potentially dangerous dog declaration. So some pros to that would be it would improve public safety. There's a minimal expense to acquire a leash and a muzzle if the dog owner doesn't already have one. And if the appeal is ultimately lost, the leash and muzzle would be needed moving forward anyway. Some cons potentially would be the expense of the leash and muzzle for the pet owner who could possibly win the appeal, and then the inconvenience of someone 16 years or older having to be around the dog while it waited for this appeal whenever it went outside. The second recommendation is to repeal pet licensing provisions for all animals other than for dangerous dogs. So pet licensing was instituted to do the following, which was to incentivize pet owners to have their animals vaccinated, because you got to have a license to get, or you're supposed to have a vaccination proof of that to get a license. Provide a means of pet identification for stray animals to be reunited. So if your name and address is on your tag, you can see that presumably and get it back to you. And then differential licensing was instituted to incentivize people to have their pets altered. So it's an altered animal is $5, an unaltered animal is $25. the Animal Services Advisory Board doesn't believe or has concluded that those objectives are not being achieved for a number of reasons. So they want to eliminate pet licensing, and these were some of the specific reasons. The affordability of the license for altered animals and unaltered animals, particularly for those in low-income communities. And you heard a little bit from the advisory board members that spoke earlier about that. The cost-benefit analysis to collect the license fee itself, and then low pet owner compliance. And then the advisory board believes that the licensing fee may discourage people from having their animals vaccinated, which Ms. Ivester, the board chair, noted when she spoke a little bit ago. This is a chart that shows revenues and expenses to collect the license. Now, it looks incomplete because from 2011 to 2015, the county staff actually managed the program. And so it's bits and pieces of people's time. There's nobody specifically dedicated to it. So you can't really put a solid expenditure number toward that. So I'm really just showing you what revenue they collected because we can determine what was booked for that purpose. In 2016, the county entered a contract with Datamax midway through the year, or partway through the year. So that expenditure number is low, so likely the net number is overstated because there are some county expenses that went into collecting licensing fees too that are not included here for the same reason that you have blanks from 2011 to 2015. And then the county picked it back up and dropped our Datamax contract in 2021. And so you can see the revenues there, and then that expenditure number is the equivalent for a person and a half that the board provided to the Sheriff's Office Animal Services Division to provide licensing services and rabies recording. So to know the exact number of animals in the community is difficult. So the American Veterinary Medical Association provides an estimating tool, and that estimating tool indicates there are 90,203 dogs in Forsyth County and 67,124 cats, for a total number of pets of 157,000 approximately. So this is a chart of the number of licenses issued by Forsyth County. So you can see in 2010 it was 34,000, and then 2011 33, and it starts to kind of hold there, has a low year, jumps back up, and then it starts to decline. And so we were at 16,000 roughly in 2021. So if you use the number of pets in Forsyth County that I just showed you on the previous page, the high percentage of animals that we actually collected licenses for was about 23%, and most of that would likely be dogs. So that dog number would be a little higher, but that's the high watermark. And then the low is 10.1%, which is fairly recently, of the total. But again, most of those would likely be dogs, so it would be a little higher than that for dogs. So additionally, people may want to avoid the licensing fee. So they might avoid getting their animals vaccinated, because if the animal gets vaccinated, and the veterinarians are required to submit that vaccination record to the sheriff's office. And so people who don't want the sheriff's office to know about themselves may avoid getting the animal vaccinated. So we contacted a number of communities, and I asked Janice and Budget to ask them about, did that improve their rabies compliance number? Nobody's really sure. So they're not sure if it does or if it doesn't, but that's the rationale is that if you don't have to do it, then there are some people who would get their animals vaccinated. They didn't have to worry about a license that might get reported to the sheriff's office. So in short, the Animal Services Advisory Board has recommended the following. They want to amend the dangerous dog and potentially dangerous dog declaration appeals hearing where an animal pending that can have interim measures. And then they want to eliminate the pet licensing provision. County management concurs with those advisory board recommendations with one caveat, that in 21, a position and a half was budgeted in the sheriff's office for the Animal Services Division to take back licensing from the contracted firm. If you eliminate licensing and retain the 1.5 petitions that were added for that purpose, then you've got $144,778 in revenue loss and the $74,434 in retaining the positions. So if you add those two numbers together, that's about $219,212 swing, basically. If you eliminate licensing and the positions that you added for that purpose, then you lose the revenue, but then you would save on the positions, which would be a net cost of $72,631. So if you were to eliminate licensing, you could either do that by leaving the positions or removing the positions, and then if they were asked back at a future time, you could do that in your FY23 budget process, which is being undergone like right now.
Yeah, and I'd just add that, I mean, generally speaking, whenever you take an action like this, you always ask us to figure out what the net is, and then we would essentially put that in as an alternate service level. The sheriff would have that as, he would navigate that as he navigates the upcoming year budget. So, and I presume that for all practical purposes and intents, this would be effective in July. I mean, take a little bit to be effective, but.
The sheet that I'm putting on the overhead was a survey that Budget conducted of different counties and then some municipalities within those counties. So what you're looking at is Cumberland County does not provide licensing, and there's no other municipalities that provide animal services within Cumberland County. Durham also does not provide licensing, and there's no other municipalities in that county that provide animal services. Guilford doesn't provide it. Within Guilford County, there's two municipalities that do provide their own animal services programs, and of those two, High Point and Gibsonville do provide licensing. Mecklenburg provides it through a contract as well, and then there are 3 municipalities that have animal services programs in Mecklenburg County. 2 of them, Matthews and Huntersville, do provide a licensing program, and Cornelius does not. New Hanover County does provide a licensing program. There are no other municipalities that have animal services in New Hanover County. Orange County provides licensing. Carrboro, Chapel Hill, and Mebane, well, Mebane's a little confusing because it's partly in Alamance and partly in Orange. The part that's in Orange, there is. The part that's not, there's not licensing. And then in Wake County, they do have a licensing program. I'll take that back. They do not have a licensing program. But within Wake County, Garner does. Raleigh, Cary, and Holly Springs do not do licensing. So and they're all slightly different the way they do it, but and more or less effective. So I just add that for information. But so those are the comments that I have. You heard from P.J. Laughlin, Priscilla Ivester, and Aaron Turner, who are on the advisory board earlier, as well as from Mark Neff, the Humane Society director, new executive director. He's also supportive of, they just talked about the pet licensing part, but from my participation in meetings that I've been invited to, I think the advisory board was 100% wanting to eliminate licensing and to change the interim measures or add some for animals that are awaiting a hearing. So with that, I'll hear your comments or take any questions and try and answer them.
One question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. One of the presenters mentioned, Damon, that there was 87% were unlicensed in Forsyth County. And I was curious how they get that 87% unlicensed.
Well, I'm not sure how they got that number, but what I used on here was the American Veterinary Medical Association's pet estimate for animals in Forsyth County and households, and then compare that to the number of licenses that we issued. Now that may come from could be a calendar year, could be a different period of time that they were using than I was recording.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to say I appreciate the work of the Animal Control Advisory Board. Probably on a fee that is collected so sporadic. I mean, there's a fairness issue from the standpoint of just simply there's no way to enforce it. Nobody knows how many total dogs there are, and running them down and finding all that. It's like impossible for a $5 fee and whatever. So. I do have heartburn over losing a net of $72,000 because, as we all know, when the sheriff's office took over animal control, that cost us a lot more money to begin with, and then we're going to get an alternative service request for this amount of money and more, I suspect, and that does cause me some heartburn. But the fees, I think, probably are a little difficult to deal with from the standpoint of being fair, and I think a lot of that thinking probably makes a lot of good sense. But I do have a little heartburn over the additional money side of it, and it's kind of interesting. Thanks for collecting all this data. There's a huge amount of data, and I really appreciate all of, I guess, Mr. Laughlin did it, others, as well as yourself. I think getting a lot of information is really interesting. I'm just so surprised there's such variation among the large counties in do's and don'ts. It's not a rural, urban issue. It's not, it just seems to be, I guess, probably whatever history got established, in that. So anyway, I thank you for all the work, and I can see that I just have heartburn over losing money.
Well, I will credit Janice Hillenbrand and Captain Loveland for doing most of the research, but to some of them do this well or better. I'm not gonna say well, to do it better than others, and it's probably a matter of expense, and to do it really well would probably take a lot of money. So if you have a really low compliance rate, it may not be terribly effective to just put a toe in it, so.
I have one little editorial thing I'll show you later. Just a minor thing, has nothing to do with the content, but I did read this through today earlier. Sure. It's just missing an A in a place. It's missing a section that got marked out, and then it starts over with B, and it should have an A, B, C, D, and
Gotcha.
There's no A. Okay. There's no A anymore. So never mind. I'll show it to you.
I was making too many corrections.
I got about a dozen questions for you, but I'm gonna wait till later to ask you those. And for the, I do want to say to the advisory committee, I appreciate all the work y'all do to put in this and try to come up with the best answers that there may be out there to make things operate better. I do appreciate that.
All right, so the last two items are just reports, and you've got, you see those there. We've got next Thursday to deal with any questions you have about that agenda. The only other two items I had, one is, I just wanted to make sure, because I was talking to Commissioner Elamine, we have two application periods that are open right now. That you just, if you know of anybody, I don't want these to get past us, but every year we go out, we have this maintenance of effort money from behavioral health. The applications are we open that process wide open, and then the subcommittee of Health and Human Services Advisory Board reviews that. That's open until March 1st. You can access it off our website. And then the other one is, over the last couple of years, you asked us to formalize our special appropriations process. Kyle Wolf and his staff did that. And so there is an application out there on the website for a special appropriation from the county. Those close on February the 25th. And so and we hope to advertise that a little bit more. Maybe we can get Todd to push that out a little bit harder, just because we do want to try to close those up, and because historically we had not done that very well. And then the last item is next Thursday. I had us starting at 8:30. The vice chairman said 8 o'clock. I've actually moved it from 9 to 8:30. But we'll have a little food here, so if you want to get here around 8, we'll start at 8:30 with a call to order. You've got the draft agenda. I put some times over in the left-hand column to roughly keep us kind of on track. We have got a lot to talk about. The financial overview, we're going to have to really zoom through. I think I saw 150 slides on the slide deck, and so we're going to have to, it'll be motion picture maybe, I don't know. We'll do an overview of 2021 and the mid-year financial report, and Terry will take us through that. Budget drivers, we always go through that, and so we'll do that fairly quickly, and that has both human resources and budget involved. We'll do a debt and capital project overview. We have 10 or 12 projects in the pipeline, lots of questions about what those schedules look like. General Services has done a great job at putting that together, so I thought that would be useful. And then you talk about that kind of in conjunction with what our debt position looks like. Because our budget's gone up, our debt percentage is where we've got a debt ceiling of 16%. Or 18%. I think we're in pretty good shape there. And so we'll go through that. Kerry Crutchfield last year did an overview of the financials of the schools and took a 3-year kind of sliding look at that. He's updated that. We've shrank the time down a little bit on that. The data is not, it's complicated by the fact that lots of this is operating in COVID years, which throws the whole financials off a little bit. But I think there's some stuff there that can be useful, and we'll give you a little bit of background on the schools. We really recognized as we were planning this that the planets are aligning with behavioral health funding in a really unique way that I think is worth spending a little bit of time about how we respond to that from a public policy perspective, because you've got maintenance of effort funding. We know we're going to have this opioid settlement money coming in. We know that we got this direct state funding, and then ARPA dollars can be used for it. And so I do think we're in a really unique place there. And so Chantel's going to talk about that. The board authorized and funded the citizen survey. We got the survey results back. They are in the 3-ring binder that you have. I was really pleased, and Ryan Murray is with the ETC Institute. He's going to come in and help analyze those results, but I think they are very interesting, and I think supportive of what you've tried to do here. And then really kind of round out the day with thoughts around ARPA round 2. Board members have given me some ideas of what you are interested in that. I'll try to just show you a list of what I heard, and we can use that to trigger some discussion. But that is, it's a little bit around Lee Plunkett talking about revenue loss and how that factors in, and then kind of an open discussion around what round 2 looks like, and then really just open discussion. But if you add all those numbers up, you're a little after 12:30 without any breaks. And so
All of that downstairs, and then we have the regular meeting.
actually, I think we were thinking because of COVID stuff, we were actually going to be here.
So the whole meeting, everything here.
Unless y'all want to go to the 4th
That doesn't
floor.
make any difference.
I
Dudley.
can just say meeting here, I have a hard time seeing on this right here. I realize it's my eyes, and I know the chairman's got the same similar problem.
So you want to be on the 4th floor?
Well, I just have a hard time seeing here. If we got a PowerPoint here,
I have the 4th floor reserved.
Do you? Okay.
Yes.
No,
I'd much rather, personally, but speaking for me, I'd much rather be on the 4th floor.
4th floor. I don't know why I thought up here, but thank you, Ashley, for fixing up the 4th. We'll be on the 4th floor then. That'll be great.
As
I have
David,
one quick question, and that is, you'd asked me a couple weeks ago about doing a little update on this pre-K steering committee issue and kind of what's going on. And I kind of been working on a PowerPoint. I don't see any sort of place for that.
Yeah, I had that in that ARPA, because it's ARPA related, right? It was really an idea for round 2 funding with ARPA. Am I thinking wrong about that?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just didn't catch it that way. That's
Yeah,
good. That's
I
okay.
had that kind of embedded in that ARPA, because that was one of them on that list is I know, pre-K is of interest. So, yeah, I'll get you.
if we're planning to go to the 4th floor, though, we'll know about it before Thursday, right?
I think we just said we were.
Okay.
I think I was wrong. Which I don't have a problem saying that.
Could I ask a quick question? I know we're in a hurry, but Chantel, do you have an update on what the governor said today? I just got a little blip.
I do. So he actually changed the mask guidance for schools, encouraging schools to go mask optional effective March 7th. But certainly it's still schools' decision. We do anticipate our school system following that guidance from everything I'm hearing, but certainly that's going to be their school board decision.
Well, I noticed where they're having a meeting Tuesday night to discuss it, so.
Good.
But he just mentioned schools. He didn't mention.
I mean, in general, I think the guidance is, masks are still encouraged, but, mask optional in general.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kaplan? I'll second the motion for adjourn.